Hi class, how are you? I hope you are safe and sound. How was your learning experience during our last session? I hope you did well. So, before we proceed to our next lesson, let's have a quick review that can be found on your SLM on page 5. Come on! Directions. Complete the paragraph below by choosing the correct word from the word pool. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. Word pool. Behavior, communication, decoding, interact, message, motivates, nonverbal, receiver, sender, written. Let's have number 1. Blank is a process which follows a certain procedure. We discussed this class, the word process. What is your answer? Great job! Communication. Communication occurs between two or more people. The blank or source of information. What do we call the source of information, class? Sender. Good. And the blank. What about the recipient of the message? Great job! Receiver. It can be articulated through blank or spoken words. These two are under verbal communication, class. It is written. Great! It can also be expressed through gestures, facial expressions, or actions, which are blank, where words are not needed to understand what one means. The answer is correct. Non-verbal. Number 6. Blank is the process of interpreting the encoded blank of the source by the receiver. Number 7 is a bit easier because we discussed this thoroughly. It is the message. Now, what do we call if we are trying to understand the message? That is decoding. Great job! Let's have number 8. Communication also functions to control blank. Control or regulation, class, is one of the functions of communication. It is to control behavior. Great job! Number 9. It blank or encourages people to live better and allows individuals to blank with other. Other term for encourages is motivates. Great! Class, motivation is another major function of communication. Number 10. It allows individuals to blank with others. We only have one word left. That is interact. Great job! I guess you are now ready for our next lesson. Today, class, we will be talking about the models of communication process, namely linear communication, interactive, and transactional model. Let's take a look at it one by one. You know what, class? My student used to tell me, "Sir, I feel sad because sininzone ako ni crush." Speaking of sinzone, class, did you know that that is an example of linear communication? Let's take a look at this graph. This is the Shannon-Weaver model of communication, 1949. It is also considered as the mother of all communication models. As you can see, class, it has one-way process, starting from a source or producer of message. In my given example, it was my student who was the source, then passing through a channel signals adapted for transmission. Again, class, when we say channel, it is the means or medium in which the message is conveyed. In that sense, my students perhaps use Facebook Messenger because in Facebook Messenger, it has this feature when we can see whether the receiver has seen the message or not. Class channel may at times be interrupted by noise or barrier. So for instance, the message was a bit delayed because of poor signal, empty battery, and the like. Then it will go to a receiver or decoder of message. In the example, it was the crush. And the process stops after the message has arrived at its destination. This model, however, has been criticized for missing one essential element in the communication process class, which is the feedback. Without feedback, the speaker will not know whether the receiver understands the message or not. That is why perhaps my student was sad because na-scene zone niya siya. He or she doesn't know the reason why there's no reply. Is it because his or her crush was busy? Or someone read the message? Or someone read the message and not the crush? Or is it intentional? Well, we will never know because we can't read minds. It is only through clear message that we will have shared meaning. Now class, can you give me other examples of linear communication? Great! Listening to the radio. No matter how much you talk to the radio will not respond. What else? Good job! Watching television. No matter how much you react to the news you're watching, the news reporter will not respond to your reaction. What else? Good! Reading books. So no matter how much you question the book will never respond. Now class, let's go to the next. Let's take a look at this graph. The Sharm Model of Communication. This is a Sharm Model. It is an interactive approach. It is a two-way communication process where a response is given after a message is sent. Sharm, 1954, visualized the process of communication as an exchange of thoughts and ideas. As you can see, class, feedback was added to the Shannon-Weaver model. The recipient of the message decodes it and creates a feedback based on his understanding of the information sent and vice versa. The figure identifies the 6 elements of communication, which are the sender, the message sent, the receiver, and the feedback provided by the receiver and sent back as a response to the sender, and the processes of encoding and decoding. Remember, information may become useless if it is not conveyed properly to others. Thus, the processes of encoding and decoding are the key components of this model, including feedback. When we say encoding, class, it is when an idea or information is translated into words and expressed to others. When we say decoding, it is when this idea or information is understood and interpreted by the receiver. Hence, the receiver must be able to send feedback to the sender in order to complete the process. Otherwise, the communication transaction fails. Sharm's model, which is a two-way communication model, revolves around these principles. The process goes on starting from the sender, source, who encodes the message transmitted to the receiver, which he interprets, decodes a message, feedback, to be sent back to the source, who in turn decodes and interprets the information sent. In your book class, the Sharm Model has field of experience. What is this all about? Let me give you two scenarios to better understand the concept. Scenario 1. Two students are talking about their learning experience during this pandemic. The sender is under online distance learning, and the receiver is also under online distance learning. Scenario 2. The sender is under modular distance learning, while the receiver is under online distance learning. Again, they are talking about their learning experiences during this pandemic. Which scenario do you think would have full or complete understanding about their learning experiences? Is it scenario 1 or scenario 2? If your answer is scenario 1, you are correct because they have similar field of experience. In the diagram, their field of experiences overlap, meaning they can completely understand each other since they have similar field of experience. Another example would be two individuals who experience being bullied communicate with each other. Both will completely understand the pain and feeling of what it's like to be bullied because they had experienced it. Does the line maiintindihan mo rin ako anak pag naging magulang ka na familiar? Try to reflect on that based on this model. Now class, let's talk about the transactional model. How is it different from Shannon-Weaver and Sharm Model? Well, let's take a look at this graph. If you notice class, the arrows here in the transactional model are pointed on both ends, as compared to Shannon-Weaver and Sharm models, which the arrows are pointed to specific direction. Meaning, in this model, one can be sender and receiver, which they call it communicator. They may simultaneously exchange roles as sender and receiver. Also, in this model, feedback is given freely and deliberately to one another or to all members participating in the communication transaction. Since communication is deemed dynamic and progressive, the topic may also change from time to time. In this model, the noise or barrier to communication is also taken into consideration. We will be talking about the different types of barriers on our next lesson class. Noise may directly or indirectly affect the flow of communication. In the event that the message was not clearly conveyed due to the barrier, the communication continues in order to clarify the intended meaning. When the transmission is cut along the way due to the barrier, the communicators work collaboratively to understand each other. Now, the sender becomes receiver of feedback, and the receiver also acts as the sender providing information in response to the message conveyed to him or her. In this way, the communication is made more effective and complete. Alright class, I hope that by this time you have a better understanding about the models of communication. Now please do the activity on what's more on your SLM, letter A and letter C, and of course, the assessment part. Once again, I am Teacher EmmAnne and I am happy to serve. Now if you have questions or clarifications, please throw it in our group chat. See you on our next lesson. Bye!